Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. With the 24th MCU title and first Disney Plus show in the books, it is time for our review of Wandavision. This show blew away my expectations, and Paul Bettany and theorizing totally destroyed any hope I had left inside my soul. Being the first show review on the channel, I'll run you through how I plan on ranking shows. We'll go through episode by episode, giving each one a rating, and then rating the extras such as story, CGI, and music. And at the end of the video, we'll average all those numbers together to give us our final tally for the show, and I'll tell you where I rank it on our MCU sheet. Let's get to it. Episode 1, filmed before a live studio audience, threw us into this wonderful world of sitcoms. The performances were fantastic, and they captured the idea of a 60s sitcom perfectly. The slapstick comedy of this old-timey show was perfect, and though simple, the story was entertaining. Nothing in the episode stands out too much out of the ordinary, forgetting Mrs. Hart's breakdown at the sight of her husband choking on the floor.
Stop it.
This was an excellent way to start up the series, earning an 8.1 out of 10. Episode 2, Don't Touch That Dial, started to give us some clues that something about this world wasn't quite right. We get the introduction of another important character, Geraldine. We see several instances of strange occurrences with the radio malfunction and the beekeeper. We also start to notice that Wanda has control over this world. At the end of the episode, we get the big surprise that Wanda is pregnant, and we fade into a more modern era of color. This was a great episode, and slowly it starts to set up key points for later episodes. This episode gets 7.9. Episode 3, Now in Color, shows us that Wanda is way farther along the pregnancy cycle than any regular person would be at this point. Wanda tries to hide it as Vision fetches the doctor and Geraldine comes over for some small talk. We see some of the instances of things Wanda can't control, and the world of Westview only continues to get weirder. The episode ends when Wanda gives birth to 2 baby boy twins, and Geraldine seems to know more about Wanda than even she realizes. We get this strange moment where Wanda seems to have done something to Geraldine. This episode is an excellent story progressor and really starts to bring us deeper into the main plotline. 8.4 out of 10. Episode 4, We Interrupt This Program, does just that. Instead of seeing what's inside Westview, we start to see what's outside. We learn that Geraldine is actually Monica Rambeau, daughter of Maria Rambeau, and she meets with the leader of SWORD, Director Hayward. He sends her on an assignment to Westview where she meets Jimmy Woo just before she is sucked into a strange world. SWORD recruits Darcy Lewis to help solve this strange puzzle, and she figures out that using some science and radiation junk, there is a broadcast signal allowing her to watch the events of WandaVision just like us. We then find out just what happened to Monica at the end of the last episode when we watch as Wanda puts her through a wall and casts her out of Westview. This episode does a good job of introducing us to what's happening outside of Westview and establishes a few more of the main characters, earning itself an 8.6. Episode 5, On a Very Special Episode, is again just that. We see our first instance of Agnes's awareness of Westview and what's going on, and the growing confusion of Vision as he starts to uncover some secrets. The boys, Billy and Tommy, age themselves up to around 10 years old. SWORD desperately tries to get intel on what's going on, but in doing so, they just piss off Wanda and she's forced to come out with a warning. We then watch as Vision and Wanda fight. He believes she is in full control of the Hex and that she's keeping him prisoner. This fight is then interrupted when a knock comes from the door and we are introduced to Pietro. But he's not really Pietro. Episode 5 is a fantastic episode and probably one of my favorites, getting a solid 9.2 out of 10. Episode 6, All New Halloween Spooktacular, starts to show us some of the scarier parts of Westview. Vision goes off on his own to explore the town and finds that those on the outskirts are glitching. We see that Pietro just might not be what he seems. Of course, the best part of this episode is the main 5 characters all wearing their comic-accurate outfits. It puts such a smile on my face seeing Billy and Tommy wearing theirs as well. Vision attempts to leave the Hex in the episode, and we see that he dies when trying to leave Westview. Wanda expands the Hex, saving him and sucking in many others as well. This is another fantastic episode, moving the story along very nicely, and this one gets a 9.5. Episode 7, Breaking the Fourth Wall, is our final sitcom episode to the series. Ultimately, this episode is purely filler with little interesting happening until the end. Wanda goes through a sort of depression, while on the outside, Monica tries to re-enter the Hex. Agnes takes the kids at the beginning of the episode to give Wanda a break. Monica's attempt fails, but she claws her way through anyways, rearranging her biology and gaining powers in the process. Her and Wanda almost fight, but Agnes steps in to save the day. She takes Wanda back to her house, where in her basement it is revealed not only does she possess the Darkhold, but she is a witch, Agatha Harkness. And we finally get the answer to
Who's been messing up everything?
It's been Agatha all along.
This episode starts off really slow, but really picks up at the end with some great reveals, earning itself an 8.2 out of 10. Episode 8, previously on, starts off by bringing us back to the Salem witch trials, where we see Agatha kill her coven and possess more power than she could have ever imagined. Cutting back to the present day, Agatha takes Wanda through her memories, where it is revealed that she has always had her powers and that the Mind Stone only amplified them. We see how Wanda created the Hex through her grief and outburst of magic, and at the end, Agatha tells her that she is the Scarlet Witch. This episode is great, with so much emotion and insight into what is happening in Wanda's past. We also get our first look at White Vision. This episode gets a 9.6. And episode 9, the series finale, was super exciting and really leaves us wondering what happens next. The final battle occurs as Wanda takes on Agatha and Vision takes on White Vision. Monica deals with Pietro, and we learn that he's just another regular person Agatha took advantage of. Wanda sees the pain she's put the people of Westview through and tries to save them, almost costing her Vision and her children in the process. Vision then has this very odd existential conversation with White Vision before restoring his memories and returning him into the true Vision, sending him off into the world. Wanda and Agatha then have this epic magic fight in the sky before Wanda uses Agatha's own tricks against her. Wanda finally gets her full Scarlet Witch gear, and let me just say, holy crap, does this look amazing? I need to get the Funko Pop right away. Since of course Agatha can't be trusted, Wanda turns her back into Agnes and leaves her in Westview. This show ends with a sad goodbye from Wanda to her family as the Hex disappears and leaves her alone once more. The first credit scene shows us that Nick Fury is very interested in Monica, and there are more Skrulls walking around than we know. The second shows us Wanda using the Darkhold for some ancient sorcery that will probably lead us right into Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. The finale was crazy, and while I may have been let down due to over-theorizing and Paul Bettany's deception, it was ultimately amazing nonetheless. And it gets a 9.8 out of 10. So moving on to our final ratings, we get our first extra, that being the story. I think we can easily all agree this was one of the craziest stories the MCU has had yet, and at the same point, it was one of the most simple. A simple story about grief and loss and what family means. This story gets a 9.7. As for the music, I think the music for this show was perfect, from the opening theme songs to the absolute bumper to our basic fight scene music. I think all this fit well with the theme, and it definitely gets a 9.8 out of 10. As for our final category, the CGI or animation, I think it was good. Of course, being Marvel's first Disney Plus show, it's gonna have some differences than those we see on the big screen. I think some of the scenes were a little especially the Vision versus White Vision fight, but I think most of it was done really, really well, like Wanda and Agatha's magic. The CGI earns itself a modest 8.2. So, with all those numbers, it is time for our final rating. WandaVision, 24th installment into the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the first Marvel Disney Plus show, earns itself an 8.9 overall. Not too bad. But before you go, where does this fit in the MCU rating scale? I put WandaVision at number 6, just above Captain America the Winter Soldier, and just below Doctor Strange. But that does it for this review. I hope you all enjoyed it. Let me know what your thoughts on both WandaVision and my review are down in the comments. Remember to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for anything coming out, such as my Justice League Snyder Cut review in about a week or two. But if that's not your thing, maybe you'll like my entire video game Funko Pop collection. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.